Originally released December 13th, 2023 on PSVR 2, MetaQuest and PCVR by developer Jet Dogs Studios and publisher VR Kiwi. Towers and Powers VR, among all the heavy hitters that's been dropping for VR for the past couple of years to present day, stands tall as one of the best experiences I've had for a long time in this remarkable hobby. Main reason being, although so many genres translate impeccably to VR, the tabletop is my favorite. Thanks to VR Kiwi for the PSVR 2 key. Watch Season 12 of the Lab Video Game TV on Flow One in 25 Caribbean countries. Download the Stream Blue app to watch us on the go. Tune into Ontario's Island Radio 101.3 FM, also online at cjai.ca for weekly gaming news at 4 p.m. every Thursday during the Sage Projects. Now, let me break down for you why Towers and Powers VR holds a top spot for me. Towers and Powers VR is a tower defense experience which leans heavily on strategy. It's not exactly a tabletop sim, but once you get into it, you'll see why I gave it this classification. It has many similarities.
The islands green and carefree thrived. The times were good. The people praised the gods above for all their joys.
The story is pretty basic, but enough to create purpose and keep you going. Following a prolonged era of peace, chaos broke out among good and evil. A greater, more sinister, ancient evil took this opportunity to rise up, creating portals, spawning monsters all across the lands. Most of the gods fled, leaving only a few behind, you being one of them, a novice deity who must now carry the burden almost alone. One of the others who remained serves as a guide, helping you acquire and understand your powers and walk you through the required training. He pops up at the start and end of levels and stages, mostly a nuisance, but sometimes helpful. In sound, we have pretty good music. The music, however, doesn't seem to be on a seamless loop. There are times where the track ends and takes a while to restart. The voice acting that is present is well done. It represents the fantasy period well enough. The sound effects are also pretty spot on. So other than the inconsistent audio loop, I have no other issues with sound. The visuals are great, lush, highly saturated cartoon-styled visuals, with well-designed environments, creature models, particle effects, and items. The visuals are beautiful in and out of the headset. Over in gameplay, on startup, you'll notice that settings are very bare bones. I found this odd. All that's presented are a couple of audio settings and a help menu. That's really just the controller layout. Then once you get to the level select screen, the settings expand and allows you a bit more. You can now select your difficulty, disable the tutorial, tips, damage indicator, and change your dominant hand. Options are still severely lacking regardless. Uncertain why it was done this way, but yeah, here we are. The main offender here for me is the lack of VR options, specifically a smooth turn option. Although much movement is not required in this experience, you do have snap turning. So if there's snap turning, there should be smooth turning. It should be mandatory at this point in VR to have smooth turning. Why is snap turning still the default for most experiences? Why isn't smooth turning the default setting in all VR experiences by now? Now, Towers and Powers VR, as the genre itself suggests, is first and foremost a strategy game. When most players think of the strategy genre, we think Total War, Crusader Kings, the Civilization franchise, Company of Heroes, experiences like Chaos Gate, Demon Hunters, and the like, and that's perfectly understandable. It's also understandable why tower defense is a genre by itself, but it's really a subgenre, because all tower defense games are inherently strategy games. Their foundation, the entire premise, is based on strategy. And in an experience like Towers and Powers, there isn't one single aspect of this that doesn't scream constant strategizing. That's all you do, even during the breaks. While the floating dude is talking to me, all I'm doing is planning how I'm going to tackle the next level, waiting for him to shut up so I can get to it. Here's a breakdown of the loop. When a stage begins, you'll have portals. These are spawn points for the enemy. You then have your base. This is what you're protecting. Between your base and these portals, you're able to build towers by using soldiers or workers, whatever you'd like to call them. You've got peasants, which by the way should never be underestimated. They epitomize the expression, strength in numbers, and will eventually prove to be your strongest allies. Then you've got monks, Vikings, mages, priests, and engineers. Maybe I'm missing one other. You place these units on construction points on a map to basically transform them into towers. You can mix and match them to create different results. The position you place them on each tower also changes their effects. These units can also be placed directly on the battlefield, but that's ill-advised. They're all a whole lot more powerful in these towers. Pun intended, I guess. You can also set them to create barriers, upgrade barriers, create academies, which is basically setting down a mage or priest to spawn magical abilities which regenerate after you cast them. You're able to check the stats and the descriptions of all your units and your magical abilities. You unlock and learn gesture-based spells as you progress through the levels. These also use a cooldown, but are very effective. I mainly stuck to one after a while, but I suppose depending on your preferences and playstyle, others could end up being your go-tos. Throughout each level, you'll see these orbs floating around. You'll have heal, currency, ice, fire, poison, one that helps regenerate your mana faster, and I think that's about it. But later on, you'll learn a gesture-based spell which allows you to conjure up a whole bunch of these orbs at once. That was my go-to. There are a few boss battles, and they were creatively handled. They're in keeping with the rest of the game's mechanics, as they attack in a tower defense form, with maybe the exception of the final boss, which varied a little bit from said mechanic, but was still implemented well. Towers and Powers VR is a challenging experience, regardless of the difficulty selected. Well, I never experienced the easiest difficulty, but from normal up, the challenge can be quite brutal. Once you pass the first couple of levels, you'll begin to feel the pinch. You'll become accustomed to that expression. Keep your head on a swivel. Towers and Powers will keep you busy. Rest once, make one mistake. Sometimes, just wasting one power orb could cost you a match. Know which spells work best for which levels. Which unit works best against which enemy type when you only have a little cash. What unit to get started off with to ensure you can go without damage for at least the first 2 or 3 waves. Which units to use to create barriers. Which units to use to upgrade said barriers. When to use a spell and when to skimp on it. Knowing that the best and perhaps only units that are useful off the towers are your Vikings. What tower combo works best for the oncoming wave. When best to use your peasants as a strength in numbers last resort. The list of strategic combos are almost endless. There will be times where you'll not have a full house to work with. So you'll need to be transferring units from points to points in a bid to spread out your towers. Now, this all sounds pretty hectic and potentially stressful, but then there's the flip side. Once you have mastered the mechanics at play, once you have become completely acclimated with the necessary tactics required, there will be times where you feel overpowered and unstoppable, where you can almost employ a set it and forget it falling dominoes approach. When you're in such great control of the battlefield that your units are doing most of the work for you, where all you have to do is manage your spellcasting and orbs. When the enemy can't break your defenses and you almost feel like you're cheating to how impenetrable your defenses have become. What I'm ultimately getting at is, Towers and Powers VR is a well-designed experience, an incredibly balanced game. There are difficult moments, incredibly challenging moments, but never an unfair moment. If you find yourself stuck, just take a break. Take that headset off. Return again later or another day, when your mind is fresh, and you'll be amazed at how easily you were able to defeat a stage that was giving you hours of hell in now one go. Several stages did this to me, the final one in particular, and this also speaks to the overall quality of Towers and Powers. I learned this as far back as the first Tomb Raider I experienced on the Sega Saturn. When a game is kicking your ass, but you keep coming back until you beat it, that's not just your love for the hobby or your ego preventing you from quitting. That's good game design. So to wrap this up, I've not been releasing many reviews for a while now. they've been few and far between, which is unfortunate as my favorite videos to produce have always been review videos. But the more I mature is the less comfortable I am with publishing videos of unfinished experiences. It never feels right to be giving a thumbs up or down on people's work without at least playing it through to the end to see all that it has to offer. I also agree though, that someone should not have to see end credits roll to determine whether an experience is good or bad. But I guess that's just the decency and integrity in me. I don't feel right saying, go buy this or avoid that, without enough information to form those conclusions. This explains why I've been producing a whole lot of first impressions videos. Some of these experiences take me a while to complete, like Towers and Powers. I don't have the time or desire to spend endless hours grinding through any game just to get a review out. This is not my profession, just a beautiful passion and sometimes a monetized hobby. Towers and Powers VR has got my recommendation though. 2 thumbs up. The Hitman VRs, the Behemoths, Arcane Ages, and others. They all deserve their places in the spotlight, but so do a lot of these unsung heroes. I'll always be here in my limited capacity rooting for the underdogs. Watch Season 12 of the Lab Video Game TV on Flow 1 in 25 Caribbean countries. Download the Stream Blue app to watch us on the go. Tune in to the Sage Projects on Ontario's Island Radio, 101.3 FM. Also online at cjai.ca for weekly gaming news at 4 p.m. every Thursday. Thank you for watching. If you're cool with my content, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications. If on the other hand, however, I found a way to piss you off with this one, then feel free to do the do. Dislike, unsub, leave a fiery comment voicing your disgust and displeasure. Either way, I won't hold it against you. Our game is never over.
Hurrah! The deep-sea beast defeated sinks to its domain. The monsters tamed. The threats been met. All hail the hero brave. The gods on high, content as well.